What if your biggest investment turned into your biggest loss? For a shocking 1 in 4 flat owners in the UK, that's not a hypothetical. It's their reality. They bought into the dream of owning a home, only to find themselves stuck in a financial nightmare that's wiping out their savings and derailing their future. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden traps buried in the UK's property market. We're talking about out-of-control service charges, ancient leasehold laws, and a building safety scandal that are forcing a quarter of all flats to sell for less than they were bought for. How did this happen on such a massive scale? And could you be next? Stick with me, because you're about to hear the story of a system that many are calling broken, exploitative, and fundamentally unjust. The dream of owning your own home runs deep in our culture. It's meant to be a cornerstone of financial security. But for hundreds of thousands of people, that dream has morphed into a nightmare. The headline figure is staggering. Nearly 25% of flats in the UK are selling at a loss. This isn't just a slight market dip. It's a symptom of a massive crisis of confidence in a huge slice of our housing market, specifically leasehold flats. For years, buying a flat was seen as the first and most affordable step onto the property ladder. But now, that faith is gone. Why? Because the very way ownership is structured is, for many, a financial trap waiting to spring. Landlords are fleeing the market, and first-time buyers are being hammered by high interest rates and the impossible task of saving for a deposit. This has created a perfect storm where there just aren't enough buyers. But the real heart of the problem is the leasehold system itself, a bizarre remnant of feudalism, where you buy a home but never truly own the ground it sits on. You're a tenant, sometimes for a very long time, but still a tenant who answers to a freeholder. And it's this broken relationship that has opened the door to a series of devastating financial traps. Let's get into the 4 biggest reasons why so many flats have become financial black holes. The agitation, the 4 financial traps. Trap 1, Soaring. Unaccountable service charges. The first and most immediate nightmare for many leaseholders is the service charge. In theory, it's what you pay to maintain the building, cleaning the halls, fixing the lift, insuring the property. But in reality, it's become a story of exploitation for countless owners. Service charges are out of control. And it's not just the cost that's the problem. It's the total lack of control and transparency. Leaseholders are getting billed thousands for work they never agreed to, with zero detail on where their money is going. We hear horror stories of residents being charged nearly £12,000 a year for major structural problems, making their homes impossible to sell and turning their investment into a money pit. This huge uncertainty means that even if your service charge is reasonable today, a buyer knows it could explode at any moment, making your property toxic on the market. Trap 2, the ground rent scandal. Next up is ground rent, one of the most hated parts of the leasehold system. This is a payment you make to the freeholder just for the privilege of your home existing on their land. It gets you absolutely no service in return. For years, developers sold new builds with clauses that allow ground rent to double every 10 years. A small £250 a year could balloon into £500, then £1,000, then £2,000, and eventually tens of thousands of pounds over the lease's lifetime. These toxic clauses made thousands of homes basically worthless. Mortgage lenders won't touch them because who wants to take on that kind of escalating debt? Thankfully, the government banned ground rents on new leases from June 2022. But here is the catch. The ban didn't apply retrospectively. It did nothing for the millions of people already stuck in leases with these aggressive clauses. While newer reforms are trying to fix this, progress is slow and doesn't help everyone, leaving a legacy of properties that are incredibly difficult to sell. Buyers are now, quite rightly, terrified of ground rent clauses. This is a complex and, let's be honest, infuriating situation. If you're finding this useful, or if you've been burned by the leasehold system yourself, hit that like button to help this video reach more people. And tell me what you think in the comments. Your story is part of a much bigger national conversation, and it's vital that these experiences are heard. Now, let's get into the next trap, because it's a big one. Trap 3. The cladding and building safety crisis. The third trap is the building safety crisis, a national scandal that erupted after the Grenfell Tower tragedy. In the years since, tens of thousands of buildings across the UK have been found to be wrapped in the same kind of flammable materials or to have other serious fire safety defects. You'd think the developers who built these dangerous homes would be on the hook to fix them. Instead, the burden has overwhelmingly fallen on innocent leaseholders. People have been hit with life-destroying bills for repairs, sometimes over £100,000 per flat, to fix problems they didn't create and knew nothing about. The government has launched funding schemes and set deadlines for the work to be finished, but progress has been painfully slow. As of mid-2025, work hadn't even started on over half of the affected buildings in the social housing sector, leaving hundreds of thousands of residents trapped in limbo. They live with the constant fear of being in an unsafe building, while also being forced to pay for waking watches and sky-high insurance premiums. This crisis has made selling a flat in an affected building almost impossible. For years, lenders demanded an EWS1 form to prove a building's wall safety was sound, and without one, a mortgage application was automatically rejected. The sheer scale of the potential cost has scared off nearly all buyers, forcing many to sell at a huge loss if they can even sell at all. Trap 4. The short lease time bomb. The final trap is the short lease. When you buy a leasehold property, you're just buying the right to live there for a set number of years. As that lease gets shorter, the value of your property drops, and it drops fast. Anything below 80 years is the danger zone. At that point, it becomes way more expensive to extend the lease, and most mortgage lenders will refuse to even consider a loan, cutting off the vast majority of buyers. If a lease slips below 70 years, the property becomes virtually unmortgageable. A lot of first-time buyers had no idea about this ticking time bomb. They bought flats with 90 or 100-year leases, thinking that was a lifetime. They didn't realize that in just a decade or two, their biggest asset would start to depreciate. To protect themselves, buyers are now told to look for flats with at least 120 years left on the lease. For anyone with a shorter lease, the only way out is to pay the freeholder tens of thousands of pounds for an extension, another massive expense that eats into their equity and fuels these loss-making sales. The solution: reform in the future. So with all these traps, is anything being done? The government has admitted the leasehold system is broken. The Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act became law in 2024 and has been called a major step in the right direction. This act is supposed to make it cheaper and easier to extend a lease or buy the freehold, with the new standard lease extension set at 990 years. It also bans the sale of new leasehold houses in most cases, and as of early 2025, got rid of the rule that you had to own a property for 2 years before you could extend the lease. These are good changes. But the reforms aren't a magic wand. Many of the Act's key promises won't actually come into effect until late 2025 or even 2026, as the details are still being ironed out. Critically, the Act failed to deliver a cap on existing ground rents, leaving many current leaseholders right where they started. And while it promises more transparency on service charges, it doesn't have the teeth to stop them from being exploitative. People are still waiting to see a real-world difference. The long-term dream is to move to a common hold system where residents own the freehold of their building together. This will give them control over their homes, their costs, and their futures. But shifting a system that covers millions of homes will take many, many years. So that's the story behind the shocking statistic. 1 in 4 flats selling at a loss. It's not just market ups and downs. It's the direct result of a broken, centuries-old system. Runaway service charges, the ground rent scandal, the building safety crisis, and the short lease time bomb have all created a perfect storm, destroying the value of what should have been a safe investment. While recent reforms offer a glimmer of hope, they do little for the thousands of people trapped right now. They thought they bought a home, but they've been left with a liability. For them, the dream of home ownership has been shattered by the harsh reality of leasehold. If you're thinking about buying a flat, you have to do your homework. Check the lease length, demand the service charge accounts for the last 3 years, and ask pointed questions about any planned major works. The system is starting to change, but for now, the traps are still very real. Thanks for watching. If this video has opened your eyes to the problems in the leasehold market, please subscribe for more on the UK's housing crisis. Together, we can stay informed and push for a system that's fair for everyone. Stay tuned and watch my another video. What is Tracker Mortgage, which is presenting pros and cons and difference between fixed and variable rate mortgage.